mRNA vaccines were hailed as medical breakthroughs in the fight against COVID. Now, the US Department of Health and Human Services is slashing $500 million in government funding for mRNA vaccine development. 22 projects will be shelved, with future vaccine efforts going to other platforms like whole virus vaccines. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says mRNA vaccines don't offer effective protection against upper respiratory infections like COVID and flu. Medical evidence shows they do help prevent severe disease and death from COVID and show promise against influenza. I'm joined now by Katalin Karikó. She is a biochemist and researcher who was jointly awarded the 2023 Nobel Peace Prize for Medicine for work involving mRNA technology used in the first wave of COVID vaccines. Thank you so much for your time. I want to begin by asking, as someone who has dedicated decades to advancing mRNA technology and as I've just mentioned, has won a Nobel Prize for that contribution. What is your reaction to the Trump administration's decision to cancel nearly $500 million of mRNA funding today?
Definitely the global progress of vaccine development and the global progress of science suffered tremendously. And I am very disappointed, but what we can do. And that's what I always ask myself, when I was in Hungary and then I moved to the United States. And then when I couldn't do things here, then I moved another country to Germany. So, that's what I am thinking, that what the scientists can do now.
I just want to ask you about the HHS, the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying that vaccines don't offer effective protection against upper respiratory infections like COVID and flu. I mean, this is one of their core reasons for diverting funding away from this technology. What is your response to that and the efficacy of this vaccine in treating that?
Yes, so obviously, when you are sick, you wouldn't ask advice from a lawyer like Kennedy. You ask experts, your physician, for advice, and obviously he's misinformed and do not understand that science is knowledge which was around the world, and we collected those with observation, experimentation, measurements, and all of this scientific evidence. And when you just reject and rely on misinformation, then you make a decision like he made, which is false, based on false information. And so I am thinking what we can do as a scientist. And, I already thought about from January that we have to educate the public about, understanding that we are scientists is one of them, and we are dedicating all our life to advance science and what science means. Yeah.
You've just spoken about the fact that you had to move away from Hungary in order to continue your research in mRNA. I mean, the US Health Secretary, we know, is a long-time vaccine skeptic. This policy is not likely to change anytime soon. Therefore, what will your next moves be?
I mean, I am already 70 years old, so I don't move much. But, I can see that what the scientists can do is what I did, when, move to another country, in Europe or in Asia, in Japan, in China, where messenger RNA research is advancing, and in many of the clinical trials are running there. And so what I have done, 40 years ago, pack in, leave all the loved one behind, and move to the United States. And when I couldn't do here, what I wanted, I moved to Germany. So that might be the solution. Those scientists who want to advance, they might move in another country. And of course, when science and knowledge here is under attack and funding is low, it is really the next generation will suffer the most,
Yeah, and on that note, I mean, how does a move like this impact vaccine development, not just in the US, but globally?
Obviously, the United States was a power in science and it's still, but, we can see that other part of the world is advancing and of course it will hurt tremendously. And, when we have the next pandemic, we have to beg other countries to help us out because obviously the messenger RNA vaccine can be developed quickly and very effective. And so that's what we will rely on to help out from China and from European countries when next time we have a pandemic.
I mean, the concern is that we will face another pandemic like COVID sometime soon in our future. How do you think the US health system would react in its current state as and when that happens?
I don't know what will happen, but obviously, globally we have other countries, strong science is ongoing, and it will be strengthened by American scientists who will move to other countries, just like many of us, packed in and left. And, maybe that's how we could keep the science going, because that's what we as a scientist thinking, we have just one life, and then what we can do. And I can see these two things, that advancing, then you have to move, and then we have to educate the American public about what the scientists are doing and who we are as a scientist.